Hello and welcome to Retro Reviews, my channel where I review my favorite retro video games of all time as well as some modern releases I have recently finished. Today I want to go over a Switch 2 leak that I saw recently that got me kind of excited. Now I love leaks and rumors because they're not concrete, but we don't have anything else concrete right now, so it's fun to speculate and see what's out there and see what might ultimately end up becoming true. Because if we get excited about something and then it becomes true, then it's then we're really excited about it. So I just want to talk about leaks and rumors because I think they're so much fun. So today my leak comes from notebookcheck.com, who is reporting from the Taiwan Economic Daily as their source, suggesting that the Switch 2 is going to have a dual screen display, which is a really crazy report. I have seen this before, but mostly just in passing, people just purely speculating that a dual screen might be coming because we've ported a lot of like the virtual console we've seen all the way up to like the Game Boy Advance. So it would make sense next generation we're going to have DS for the Switch Online service. So if they had a dual screen, boom, we've taken care of that right away. But we have seen like the new Castlevania collection coming to Nintendo Switch with the DS ports. So it looks like they can make it work without having the dual screen. So we'll take this with a grain of salt, but it is something I wanted to talk about here. There was a previous rumor as well that talked about the Switch being called the Switch Superior, which I think is an interesting title. I think if they're not going to do a numbered entry, something unique like that would be cool. I don't know if Switch Superior is my choice. I did see some other ones I can't think of off the top of my head, but I have seen some really good names. So as long as it's not the new Nintendo Switch, I am totally fine. This new rumor suggests that it's going to have a bigger battery life, a bigger screen, and the dual screen technology, as well as the magnetic Joy-Cons, which have been previously rumored, and I think are fairly corroborated by multiple sources at this point. I think the magnetic Joy-Con, instead of using the rail sliders, I think is pretty well circulated at this point. I think most people agree that that's what they're doing. And I think that's a fantastic idea for new Joy-Con support. If they're not going to improve the Joy-Cons themselves all that much, better connection would be much better. And I think that's a really cool thing. But a bigger battery life is obviously good because the biggest thing with handheld gaming consoles, especially with like the big PCs, like the Switch, the Steam Deck, as well as some other like portable gaming PCs, is that their battery life is fairly abysmal. You're not going to get more than a couple hours at most for bigger games, which makes sense. You got to compute huge games here, but it's really encouraging to see the Switch OLED has a pretty darn good battery life. In fact, from my original Switch that I got, I always thought the battery life was really fantastic, and to see the Switch OLED get even better and having them upgrade it even further with the Switch 2 is really encouraging to see, because that means we can take it on the go and play for a very long time without having to charge it. And that's a really valuable thing for me, because I play probably 95% of my Switch on the go instead of at home. I think that's a really big thing for me specifically. Having better Joy-Cons and the better battery life are huge things. Obviously, a bigger screen, there's going to be a higher resolution on the screen. They even hinted at like 120 hertz refresh rate, which is kind of a crazy deal. That means that we're going to have some really high refresh rates. I think that really tracks if they're not going for like super huge graphical capabilities here, which I have not seen anything that corroborates that. They're looking at like PS4 level graphics, which is still very impressive. They're going to probably want to optimize their frame rates, because on the Switch, toward the end of the Switch's life cycle, we have seen some games start to stutter and get some bad frame rates, especially like Tears of the Kingdom being such a huge game and having some stuttering here and there. Not terrible, but really showing the age of the hardware. So if they can get rid of that and make like refresh rates and frame rates their main focus, they're really going to take off this generation in a major way, because a lot excuse me. Goodness, a lot of people have been making a stink about frame rates not ever being 60 frames per second on current generation consoles, on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, and that is a major talking point at this point. So I think if they're going to lower the fidelity of the graphics, especially on a smaller screen, which makes sense, to prioritize frame rates, I think is an absolute must, and I think that will position them as a really strong contender in the market and make them like not only a great successor to the Switch and another great handheld, but a true competitor to the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, especially now that, you know, Sony's doing whatever they're doing with the PlayStation 5 Pro, Microsoft's mismanaging and laying off a ton of people. It's Nintendo's time to actually compete in the market. Instead of just doing their own thing, they'll be doing their own thing and being a direct competitor. I think that's really cool and encouraging. Now, the dual screen technology functionality, I think, is a really big point. There's been suggestions on this rumor and some other ones I've seen as of late talking about like Wii U screen functionality, which makes the same thing with the DS. You open up the screen, you've got the top screen for your gameplay and the bottom screen for something else. I think that's a really cool idea. Having a second screen to look at the map has always been fantastic, and on the Wii U is really cool when you're playing on the TV and you looked at your gamepad to see the map or do some extra thing on the touchpad. I think that's really cool integration. So I'm all down for dual screen functionality. I think the DS clearly is one of the best selling consoles of all time. It's number 2, just barely behind the PlayStation 2. At one point they were speculating that it had outsold the PlayStation 2, finally decided it didn't, but like 154 million units. Clearly the clamshell worked for a lot of people. I think it was a cool design, and I think the Switch 2 could maybe benefit from it, but we'll just have to see. Obviously, again, this is just a rumor, this is just a leak, a supposed leak going around. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think, what you want for the Switch 2, and I'll see you on the next one.